Hi Teria, happy Friday and welcome to Guild Chat. Thank you all for joining us. I'm your host Ruby and we're going to be giving you a tour of the Jade Sea today. We're really happy with how you were commenting and reacting on the video we showed earlier this week. So we're going to dive in a little bit deeper and take you around the map and show some things off to you. A couple things before we dive in. First of all, as always, we're taking you behind the scenes into a development environment. So you're going to see things that look unfinished, maybe look kind of weird, look like they might be a little broken, maybe some temporary icons, that kind of thing. Also, especially for this show, we've been saying in the Xingye map tour and in the Echovald Wilds map tour, we let you know that we had hidden a lot of things just to kind of avoid spoilers and leave plenty for you all to discover during your gameplay after End of Dragons goes live. We've done that this time, except we hid everything. This is an extremely spoilery map. There is so much story stuff that we don't want to spoil for you, that we talked about this over and over, trying to figure out what to do. We ended up, the enemies, the residents, the NPCs, they're all gone. Still lots to show you, but just a heads up, it's a little bit deserted right now. So that said, yeah, mass evacuation. We evacuated everybody. Yeah. So that said, let's jump in and meet our dev guests. Connor, we'll start with you. Hi.
All right. Hello. My name is Connor Fallon. I'm the story design lead on End of Dragons. That means I work very closely with the narrative team and with the other designers in order to determine what our main storyline is and make sure that everything that we're doing is cohesive, which is especially relevant to this map.
Yeah, and
yes,
Kirk.
it is. Hey folks, I'm Kirk Williford. I'm a senior game designer at ArenaNet, and I am a content team lead on End of Dragons, including Jade Sea here.
Yeah. All right, so where are we going to start?
Sure. We are starting at the Frozen Sea Monastery, located in the Jade Sea. So first thing you'll note is, again, I want to make it sure we call it out, everything has been unspawned in this map. You know, some props have even been unspawned. All of the NPCs have. A big thing about this map, and I'll let Connor go into detail about this, is this map ties very closely with the story of End of Dragons, particularly later in the story.
Yeah. So historically, when we've done expansions, all of the maps have taken place ballpark the same time. When we were breaking out and figuring out what we were doing in End of Dragons, it became clear that there were a lot of advantages to having one map that took place later, so that we could show some of the effects of some of the things that were happening in the story and really tie it in a cohesive way. Jade Sea is the map. So actually in the game, if you try to go to this map early, there will be a little conversation that says, "Are you sure you want to go here?" There'd be spoilers. And you can say yes. We're not stopping you from going in early and spoiling yourself, but it's this interesting thing where we've kind of taken an advantage that we had in Living World with having maps be a very specific slice of time and applied just a little bit of it to this expansion. So yeah, but the result of this is when we're putting together how to promote it, how to talk about it, it's hard. Even when we're putting together the trailer, there's a lot of really cool stuff that we just can't show, or we could show, I guess, but then you'd go in and you'd know everything. You'd know a bunch of stuff. So we've all been working really closely together on this map because of that way that it connects to the larger story and all those other things.
Yeah, it's been a blast, being able to work with the narrative team so closely, and Connor and his team on this map and developing the themes that you see in the content and the experience on this map, and how it all ties together, not just with what's happening in this map, but what's happening in the entire story at this point. And yeah, even when we were trying to figure out how to do this guild chat, it's the first thing was like, okay, how are we going to do this?
We had so many meetings about this.
Because we want to show this map. There's a ton of awesome things to see in the Jade Sea, but there's also there might be a sea that we can see. See what I did there?
Yeah, I do.
But at the same time, we don't want to spoil that for folks. We don't want to spoil a lot of things for people. So we are, that's why we do unhide everything, or we do hide everything.
Oh,
I'm not unhiding anything.
We'll be right back.
But yeah.
So let's see what we can see.
Sure, yeah. So this is another area in the map that is a bit more quiet. It's in the rocks a little bit. By a little bit, I mean quite a bit. But it showcases some of the more solemn areas of the map.
It's embedded in the rocks. rocks.
It is quite embedded in the rocks, but it still has its own grand view. It's a gorgeous area. Some awesome content takes place here, with learning more about this particular monastery and what the folks here do. But there's a lot of contrast in what you can find in this map because obviously Jade in its place in Kantha. It's very important. It powers the entire Kanthan Empire. So there's that level and that element of the map where it is a big quarry and that has to get the materials to do what it needs to do. I'm trying so hard not to spoil things right now.
You're doing really well.
I'm trying.
Shout out to Kirk for this.
But at the same time, there's also these areas where it's like it's a little quieter. It might be a break from that big industry side.
It's still a big historic region that has a lot of culture and history attached to it. And people go there not only for modern reasons, they go there to connect to that.
Yeah, this area is different than what it was in Guild Wars 1 in the sense that, this isn't the land of the Luxons as much. People who are still here are Luxons of descent. You still recognize some of them. They still, celebrate their history, similar to what you'll find in Echovold with the Kurziks, but it's kind of, it has another element to it. And so, we'll start taking a look at it. I'm going to head a little bit to the east here. I'm going to carefully position my camera. So this is the thing. The spoilers are so up front in this map that I literally cannot move my camera at certain angles for fear of showing things. But so we're going to take a little detour through this conveniently placed hallway here and just kind of take in some of the more solemn aspects of the map and some of the cool things that you'll be able to discover. Including some of the awesome artwork that has gone into this map.
Yeah.
So very early on, I mean, you all have probably seen some of these textures before, but the whole thing is very early on, the art team developed a couple different iconic patterns, basically that were that would embody Kanthan art, and I think they really help in all of our maps lend this sense of a style to this area.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I do love this mosaic so much.
Yeah, that's something I've been noticing through the whole map is the attention to detail, even in those little mosaic patterns. And if you can go back down and just even the stone surrounding it has absolutely gorgeous patterns. The map artists have done such good work on this.
Yeah, every time we go into this map, it blows us away. The work that Jeff, our map artist, has done on it is amazing, and it's just I love it so much. Something that I mentioned last week during the Echovold live stream was Echovold and Xingje have two completely different biomes, right? And then as we go through here, Jade Sea as a third different biome. These maps look completely different. There's a lot of different aspects to them, and not just in content, but also in art direction. Obviously, we're starting to see some of the Jade Sea part of the Jade Sea now. Imagine that, right? But yeah, we're gonna head down to this little village here.
I love that you can see the waves and everything.
Yeah, I have some things I want to talk about with this sea here in a bit, but this area here is called Emerald Bluff. Excuse me. And what it is, as you can see over here, there's a little bit of a dock. This area might be pretty old. They built this maybe when the Jade Sea wasn't solid jade. So this is a little bit of an older area. It has some older folks in it who may not be interested in moving to the hustle and bustle of Kaineng or, Xingje or even Echovold. They're all so different than Jade Sea. And so you'll find some cool stories here of the people who stuck around here and why they're still here, in context of what's happening at this point in the story. Yeah. But at the same time, there is some interest from folks who are arriving here and trying to figure out, what's going on? What's with this jade that now powers the entire Kanthan Empire? In so doing, there's an event here that I really like that one of our content designers, Annie, did that, is about, similar to in real life how there's, ice core studies that happen in Antarctica, for example. You're able to assist some researchers with gathering jade cores and able to, figure out what's inside the jade, what can they get from it, what are they learning from it,
Yeah.
And then there's also some other stuff that you kind of run across too.
Let's quickly take a look at the table for this researcher
nice
has.
table.
Yeah. Well, specifically, I want to talk about what's on the table. So I've had a couple people. I noticed when I was watching the chat, because I can't help myself, for all these different things. I just noticed when we run by these, a couple people have been like, what's that thing? What are these? They keep showing up. I'm going to talk about it.
Yay.
So These are actually, throughout Cantha in End of Dragons, we have news that will play like from these projectors when you get near them. And the thing about this is that news actually updates based on how far you are in the story, what's happened in the world, and all these things like that. So there's a sense of like, one of the things that I'm really proud of with End of Dragons is you know, over the years we've experimented with a lot of different ways to merge our instance content and the open world to make it feel like they're connected. And by having like these reporters talking about things that are happening in the story as you're exploring, I think that's turned out to be a really effective way for us to do it. We're proud for how it shows up. But it does mean that we've now got these things that are pretty visible in every map, and we turn them off in the live stream because we can't have them talking about something that happens in Act 5
Right.
when we're showing off, like, here's the first map you go to. So, but yeah.
Yeah, actually something that I like about these that you'll see as you're running around the game after it's live is the different sizes. And I've
Yes.
joked that it's like desktop, laptop, tablet, and phone, because there's like 4 different sizes of these.
So this one on the table is one of the smaller sizes. You get the fun-sized reporter that shows up and talks to you, just standing
love
on
that.
your table. Then you know, there's obviously like person-sized, and there's a big one for like neighborhoods. But then there's one place in the expansion. There's a giant one of these, which is always really fun when you trigger it and you see her like the thing like talking to you, and you're like, oh. There's the
that's
news.
enormous.
That's the thing. But yeah.
It's one of my favorite additions to the open world just because it really helps kind of ground everything in the reality of what's happening, right? Like, not the things that you're doing impact the world and people are reacting to it. You know, you might do something in the story, and then you hear news about it. You're like, that was made. Oops. Maybe?
But also it's a great tool for world building, right? Like just the sort of, we have a bunch of ambient reports that we wrote that are just about like random things, and like there's one that's like, don't feed the kappa, like please, they're dangerous. And we know it's like, all right, like, and that's just kind of a fun thing to have. Yeah.
All right, so what else do you want to look at the Jade Sea now?
Yeah, let's look at the Jade
We don't
Sea.
wanna look at the Jade Sea.
We're actually going to skip
Leave.
the Jade Sea, you know. No,
Don't leave
but
yet.
you know, I'm going to start heading over. Our goal is to get up on top of that ridge there. It's another one of our beautiful temples. But on the way, you know, I just wanted to call out the amazing work again that our map artist Jeff has done on this region. These are all hand sculpted waves and a beautiful artwork done. You know, you can see the sea foam, you know, kind of blending in at the top, and you can get a real sense of motion that happens inside of this map. You know, it's beautiful on its own. But something that's really special about this map that I am particularly fond of is, you know, you might see that it looks like it goes very far. So something that is kind of different and new to the game for End of Dragons is the concept of an open bordered map that is land-based, at least technically land-based. So, you know, we do open border maps all, you know, pretty regularly-ish. You know, some of them in Ara are that way, in Or. Grothmar Valley has a little bit of it near one of its edges, you know, but it's always done with water. You know, it's always a water plane that just goes off into the distance, you know. And we've never done that before for a land-based map. Technically speaking, I suppose this is water, but you know,
It's debatable. For all intents and purposes,
you know,
it's land.
But when we were building out this map, it was important that we want, you know, the Jade Sea is very large, and we wanted to accurately convey that in what you see and what you experience in the map, and have it feel like a Jade Sea, not a Jade bathtub, if you will, and have, you know, it kind of you're encapsulated in a small space, and you can't see how big this thing really is, you know. And so we were talking with Jeff about that. And how can we make this work? How can we have a land-based one where it goes off into infinity, really? And he's like, I have an idea. Let me see if I can do it. And shortly after, he checks it in and is like, you know, let me know what you think. And we took a look. We're like, holy crap. Like, this looks amazing. And what he did is, you know, beyond the borders of what is actually recognized as the map on the technical side, you know, he hand-sculpted more of these waves as props and have them placed, you know, to help convey off in the distance how big this map and how big the Jade Sea really is. And that includes, you know, you'll see the rocks and all that stuff in the distance. And that was really important to us because, you know, if you played Guild Wars 1 Jade Sea, it has that feeling to it. It was a little easier in Guild Wars 1 because you couldn't jump. There wasn't as much, you know, vertical elements to movement in the game. But, you know, so that produced its own kind of challenges for Guild Wars 2. But in doing so, Jeff did an awesome job of, really conveying it in an awesome way. It looks like it goes on forever. It's a huge ocean, not ocean, sea, but you know what I mean. Big body of water.
Is it water?
Jade Lake.
Yeah. So,
Jade Pond.
there's tons of words we can use. The pond, the soak, whatever.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
Okay, so tiny nitpicky question. When you have the water-based maps that do this, you get like the strong current when you get to the end. And I know you can't show us, but how does that work on land? I'm calling it land.
Call it land, that's fine. There is still a similar element when you get close to it. There's more important things for you to kind of focus on, and so you'll still get a familiar message. It might be a different message this time because there's not a strong water current to pull you back.
Is it a spoilery message?
Yes.
Yes.
But
yeah,
spoilers, Ruby.
Right?
When we first were like, okay, we committed to doing this open border. I talked to Eric and I was like, hey, can we change that text? And he's like, I'll look into it. And again, same thing. Really quickly we were able to. Everyone really hopped onto this idea, and it was just awesome to see everyone come together. And it looks so cool.
Let's climb.
Let's climb,
Yeah.
shall we?
Climb.
Cool, yeah. I love all the little details and like the texture work and stuff. You can you can really see the motion, and it has some reflectivity to it. I'm sure that's a technical term. Some artist is probably
It's a word now.
No.
It's fine.
Yeah,
I was thinking about this, Kirk. They do probably have jade bathtubs in Canada.
probably. But this would be a really big bathtub.
That's true.
What would you? I don't know. So we're gonna climb up here, get
I'm
another.
gonna expect a Jade bathtub on live now. Somebody get on that.
Someone can have their character named Jade Bathtub.
It's happening.
Here's
this
another
second.
view. I love this view of the Jade Sea as it just goes off into the distance. This area actually was in the Siege Turtle video that came out yesterday,
Which you should check out if you haven't.
which you should check out. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Which Siege Turtles play very nicely on this map. But this area I really like because there's some fun content here centered around what goes on in this temple. But at the same time, this might be a place where you learn about a specific mini dungeon that might be in the Jade Sea. Mini dungeon, you might say.
Yeah, I mean, I as someone who enjoys like explorative content, right? The one in Path of Fire, like where you're in the Dwarven ruins, was one of my favorite places to stumble upon. So I was really excited to hear that you guys are doing more of that stuff this time around.
Yeah, we love that kind of stuff too when we're building out these maps. Explorability is I'm sure that's a word I'm making it a word too.
Explorable.
Also a word.
Explorable. Connor is my technical dictionary here. You are in the narrative story guy.
I mean, I'm not the.
Anyway.
I write some words, but not as many. as
Anyway,
So it's a word.
That's a big. It's really important to us when we're building out these maps. It's not just the content that's in your face, so to speak, with fighting and what have you, but we want to have stuff for you to explore as you're building. Building your journey through these maps. And in doing so, we approached the design of mini dungeons for these. And this is one of a couple you might find in End of Dragons that might have something to do with this space. What more? I'm not going to say, but as you journey through the Jade Sea and explore it on your own, you'll find it. It's an awesome, thing to explore that one of our designers, Floyd, did, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Connor ran through it and he enjoyed it too.
Yep.
He likes this area in particular, which I definitely agree. Before I go to there, I'm going to show a clip of one of my favorite little vistas here.
All right.
And by clip, I mean I'm going to time it with that conveniently placed rock on the side there. And yeah. I love the view. This map has
It is gorgeous.
Being as open as it is. It allows us to have a lot of big open vistas. That just really play well, and not really anything like we've done before.
Yeah, and one of the things as we were figuring out like side stories and core stories and things like that, one of the big things we do is hey, where's a good spot for some of these scenes that we need to play that have a specific tone or we want to have a certain feel. And there's a particular one, which I'm looking forward to people experiencing, that we decided to set here, looking out at this expanse, because it made sense and it fit very well tonally. That's all I'm going to give you. But in general, I'm really proud of some of the variety of different things and places we take our characters and our world in this expansion.
Yeah. Connor, when Connor showed me what he had built here, I was really blown away. It's a really awesome moment, just in itself, but just it's a perfect place to have that moment. It's an awesome beat in the story. But I just the attention to detail and the focus and handcrafted stuff that everyone has done. It's awesome to see every time we log into the map.
And you'll just have to imagine it because we're not showing
That's right.
any of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But
what we're doing is telling you places to
Yes.
look for
Yes.
cool things.
Yes.
And I like how you said there might be a mini dungeon, like it's in question. There's definitely a mini dungeon.
Spoilers.
We're telling you where to go look.
Yeah.
It's the only spoiler I can give, man. Give me
Fair.
something.
Okay, you can have that one. I really like that too, just because in context of like the meta event that is in this map, there might be a meta event in this map.
There's a meta event in this
There is
map. You just
definitely
said
a
it.
meta event.
In context of the meta event that is in this map, there's also time for more of those quieter character beats and
Yeah.
quieter, more solo stuff that you can do,
Yes.
like a mini dungeon or what have you. Some of the stuff that we'll take a look at in a bit here.
Striking that balance is something that we've been iterating on for every expansion, right? And I think, and one of the things is the maps have different maps hit that balance a little bit differently in this expansion. That was one of the things I think that I love that gives the maps a different feel in this time around. And I think you guys did I think we did a good job of it here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Yeah, I hope everyone likes it when they're able to check it out.
Yeah, I believe this is the point where I vanish, correct?
Well, yes, I'm interested to see if you actually vanish. I do want to say thank you for giving yourself credit too, as well, for catching that.
Yeah.
You all have done such amazing work. I'm so excited for you all to
Yes.
see this.
So I'm going to be disappearing, and we're going to be bringing
yeah.
Chloe on.
We're gonna take a really quick break. Stick around, and we're gonna keep running around the Jade Sea. We'll be right back.
Thanks.
Welcome back. I hope you're ready to continue your tour of the Jade Sea with us because we have more to share. Chloe is with us now, so thank you for joining.
Hi, I'm Chloe Mills. I'm a content designer working on End of Dragons. I've been working on Echofold Wilds and Jade Sea. And in Jade Sea, one of the things I've been working on is part of the meta, including
Spoilers!
the very spoiler town conclusion to the meta.
It's so hard not to spoil
It really
stuff.
is.
It's super secret, but I'm very excited for people to get their hands on it when this goes live. I cannot wait. It's going to be
It's going to be so good. You
yeah,
guys.
I'm super excited.
It's like what Connor was saying about the story and the meta, coming together, the story teams and the content teams,
It's been really interesting because we are trying really hard to like integrate the narrative a lot with this one, and especially like towards the end, I don't know how to phrase things, but it's all secret.
There's some stuff, but there is stuff that we can share and talk about. So let's keep going.
What are we looking at?
Well, here is it is a siege turtle hatchery. This is Juno Hatchery. It is a different hatchery than the one that was in Guild Wars 1, Gyala Hatchery, but it's kind of got like similar vibes, even though it's evolved over time. There's updated architecture, and it has a little bit different of a look, obviously, but it still has a lot of Luxon influence. Like siege turtles are a very like integral part of like Luxon culture and history, and so you definitely still get a lot of those vibes, even though stuff has like updated and integrated with more of the Canthan like culture overall. So I have an event here that I made, and in it, you are protecting some little tiny baby siege turtle hatchlings that have just hatched out of their nests in the sand, and you're helping them get to these little hatchling pools where they can start like growing up and learning how to be a siege turtle. There's a lot to learn. Because like I wanted to make this event a little bit like have a little bit more of a layer than just like a regular defend or escort event. So they're like little babies. They're naive. They don't know any better, and so like they're just beelining for those pools. And in the way there's a bunch of danger and things that they can run into, including Naga and Kappa and other sorts of dangers. So you as a player are trying to herd them and lure them away from out of the like path of danger and help them not get kidnapped by the Naga. So it's very cute. It's a little chaotic, but you kind of get a glimpse into like what it's like to work at the hatchery here, and it's a bunch of very cute baby turtles.
Yeah, I really like it too. Obviously there's usually some siege turtles spawned in here amongst other things. But
We hid those two.
we hit everything. But you'll see them all around. You're able to learn about them. You're able to experience some of what that Luxon knowledge is. Given their mastery with the siege turtle just as a thing. And this is an important place for starting on the journey for getting your own siege turtle. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. So like this big pool here, it's like shallow water because it's like the side pools are for like the little tiny hatchlings, and in the middle is for like the more like adolescent, a little bit bigger turtles as they're still kind of growing up and training, and it would normally be more populated.
I like the progression of the smaller pools and then the large one.
Yeah.
And I played this event once or twice, and I know Chloe's going to get like sick of me screaming at her about how much I love it. But it's not just like adorable turtles, and you have to help like the naive little babies that will just blunder into danger otherwise. But the different ways just that little bit of progression goes. And like we were joking that they're food motivated because you can offer treats to lure them. Come over here.
You're like, come
Big
here.
mood.
You can, we can give them their lunch, Kirk.
Excellent.
But yeah, it is just the care and thought that went into it. It's such a good example of so many of the events on this map. This is one of the few we can talk about. So
One of the few.
yeah, it is. I'm excited for people to experience this one, and the fact that it's tied into getting your own siege turtle mount makes it really awesome.
Yeah. Real quickly, you might have noticed that sometimes I will focus on the nice ground, like, look at that rock, that's a nice rock.
That is a
Very nice
fantastic
rock.
rock.
But, just again, as we've said, we are unspawning, we unspawn the entire map. That includes creatures, some props. I can't turn my camera to face specific angles because sometimes it can get too spoilery. So there's like a ton of exciting stuff in this map that we really just don't want to spoil for folks. We'd rather have, you able to discover it on your own.
Yeah.
I meant to say earlier, I appreciate your use of the terrain to hide things
Yeah,
that
I
need to
mean-
be hidden. Like, you're nailing this. I'm impressed.
That's a Jeff special. He made the terrain so interesting to look at, that we're able to just kind of just chill and relax.
what it is.
And, yeah, take a look at what it has to offer, and see some props that might be floating a little bit because of, dev environment.
Yeah. Remember when I said stuff might be broken? I don't think that column, gravity, maybe gravity is
Listen.
different than I understand it in Kantha, but
Yeah, that might be it, Or I
somebody
don't know,
clicked the
blame the
column
siege
wrong.
turtles. The siege turtles did it.
Yeah, I was so glad that we were going to have a siege turtle hatchery. It was something that when we first started talking about it, I was like, oh, I need to be a part of
Yeah.
this. I really want to be involved with the siege turtles. I love them in Guild Wars 1. I love the Luxons, and it's just I could not wait, and I was like, I need to be a part of this so badly.
Yeah, the work that you've done on that area is amazing. It's
so
really
good.
awesome to check out.
so where are we now?
We're going to head north a little bit into the actual quarry part of the Jade Sea, where you'll see there's a lot to look at in here, so we'll get to it. But something that I really like about this area is it immediately shows you how much of the mining operation has already gone down, Technically speaking, up there is sea level, right? So they've been digging for quite a long time because they need a lot of this stuff to power their empire, and in some cases they've dug all the way down to the sea floor. Obviously, this is relatively shallow compared to some parts of the Jade Sea, given how close it is to the mainland. But you're able to stand in there and immediately look up and be like, okay, that's pretty deep. And see some of those stories. They're still actively trying to do stuff in here. They need that jade to fuel with all of their stuff that shall not be spoiled throughout the expansion and throughout Kantha. But yeah, in doing so, you're able to see those stories of the workers here, what they're dealing with, while also starting to re-enter a more familiar area for Guild Wars 1 players. This is the Jade Quarry from Guild Wars 1, that PvPvE mission where it was Luxons versus Kurziks, this is that area that has been expanded very, drastically as they've just continued that operation over the centuries, as it were. And that's brought the attention of many other groups, including, this logo here is an interesting one. Last week, we took a look at the headquarters in Echovold of the Jade Brotherhood gang. It turns out that the speakers are in Jade Sea, interested in what's going on here. It's empty, so.
I do appreciate their commitment to gardening, though.
They love it.
This is such a pretty area, and I joke, but the trees and the flowers and just all of the little details.
Yeah.
I love this little meadow right here.
Yep.
It's so picturesque.
It's gorgeous. Yeah, that's the thing that I really like about the Jade Sea too. I mean, all of our maps have elements of this, but this area is way different than what we started with in the show, right? And it's way different from what the rest of the sea looks like, and it's way different from what the quarry looks like. There's still elements of everything for everybody here in terms of variety of, terrain and elevation, So let's head up there, actually.
Yeah, it's really interesting to have worked on both Echovold and Jade Sea for that reason. It has provided a lot of variety, just because they have just very different vibes and layouts. Like Echovold is very vertical and kind of more like closed in and spooky, whereas I know that we're going vertical right now, but as a whole, Jade Sea is much more open and there's wide expanses, and so it really, I really like the variety there, but it's also, created some interesting design challenges to solve of how do we lay out the content and all the events and stuff, and how thinking about how stuff interacts with just the environment itself, having where do the characters exist, where do enemies live, and all of that. And so it's been really cool to work on both of them because they just have such different feels.
Yeah, for sure.
And layouts. It's really cool.
I really like it too because it allows us to, have a lot of variety in the content that we're building for these maps, in the sense that, there's pathways that, you'll see people taking those pathways, doing their own things. But then there's also NPCs that are a little bit more adventurous, and this is an awesome cliff, this is one of my favorite cliffs. And you bet that there's some diving goggles here that you can use. But there might be an NPC up here, for example, who's, they want a drink of some kind. and because they heard that there might be some ways to get a drink down here, because it turns out even miners, sometimes like to take a drink after their shift. But he's too lazy to get down here, so you have to figure out how to get him their own drink. Anyway, yeah, it's just small things like that, details here and there that really help sell the world and build the environment and takes advantage of the amazing verticality that this map can offer.
Hey, a skiff.
Yeah, hey, a skiff. Isn't it great? Yeah, but that was one of the interesting challenges with this map is, this is a map that technically is water, that is solidified. So sea level means something in this map, but at the same time, we want this map to support multiple of our new features in this expansion, skiffs, fishing, what have you. So how do we approach that from both an art perspective, but as a design one? Wow, that was the tongue full. But how do you do that?
It was fine.
It was fine.
It's fine.
And that presented its own interesting design challenges, right? And we'll go into a little bit more shortly, but it allows us to do some really fun things with it, and take us through areas that they have their own history and their own ecosystem that we're able to build content off of.
Yeah, like around here, having the water kind of like lets us take a look at like some of the inhabitants of Jade Sea, Naga, and I built another event right around here that has to do with the Naga, and I had a lot of fun with this one because I was working with narrative to figure out like what the Naga look like at this point, like where have they been, what have they been doing, like because in Guild Wars 1, the Naga were like on the brink of extinction because of the Jade Wind basically annihilating most of them, and so they also, like in Guild Wars 1, they also harbored a lot of resentment towards humans because like they viewed them as the cause of it, and so it was interesting working with the narrative team to figure out like where do they stand now, what have they been up to, and so their their numbers are better now, but they're still definitely not our friends, but like I think that like some of that like resentment has like a little bit faded over time, and it's more that they're established here and there's all these mining operations happening in the area, and so it's more just now like get out of our territory, like why are you here, like this is our turf. So I have an event here where oh god, I love that view, that's so cool. I just love how that tower really like illustrates how much has been mined out.
Yeah, like that was ground level at some point, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's so cool. But yeah, so I have this event here where there's like this normally would be populated with like a bunch of people mining and taking things into like storage facilities and moving stuff around, and so the Naga are invading because like they view this as their turf, and so they have their own motivations. They're definitely being jerks about it, but like there's a little bit more context here of like some of the friction that's happening in this region, and so you have to drive them off. And similar to the Siege Turtle Hatchery event, I wanted to kind of add another layer to like how you can go about it and give players options for how you approach the event. So you can choose to drive them off in a few different ways, whether that's with bloodshed or maybe some more peaceful options. So yeah, it's a fun event too.
Yeah, I really like that event, and because it allows us to learn more about the other elements of the area in terms of life, right? It's not just the humans who are doing quarrying here or the gangs.
Yeah. There's a lot of creatures that live here. There's a lot of history, and so being able to see like those interactions and see creatures that are familiar from Guild Wars 1, like it's really exciting. Speaking of familiar things,
good segue, right?
Yeah,
That was nice. I know what's here.
So I like all of this like rubble rock and the not quite so nicely dug out jade, and looks kind of ominous. Sometimes when you dig too deep, you might run into some things that you might not have expected, and so here we are having an event with the Jade Maw, which you might have seen in the video about Jade Sea, but you might also remember it from the Solid Ocean Fractal. So I don't know if it's the same Jade Maw or a different guy. Maybe it's his brother. Who knows?
The brother.
But yeah, so it is an interesting thing to think about, like as these people are excavating the jade, like what is in it, like what lies below the surface, and so yeah, so we have stuff with the jade maw here, and
Yeah, it's really awesome, you know, being able to take that encounter that was obviously a fractal one, so it was designed for 5 players.
Yeah.
And trying to imagine how does this work? How do these mechanics, are we changing things? Are we not?
Right.
You know, to make it work as an open world encounter.
Yeah, the context really changes there, and so like it's oh man, it's so cool.
Yeah,
it's cool to see it in like a different, like in an actual like setting rather than just like in the mists in fractals.
For sure.
So,
it helps ground it all, which is really cool.
Yeah.
You know, and it's also it's one of many cool side things that you can find in the map to, you know, fight.
yeah.
We're gonna head a little bit to the west here. We'll explain or talk about that. What is that?
Yeah.
Who knows? But you know, talking more about some of the history in the map and working with Jeff, our map artist, on how do we work in boatable and swimmable and fishable water. You know, something that Chloe was saying with the Jade Maw is what happens if they dig too deep. You know, what will they find? Will they think of things such as weather? In this case, it turns out maybe they didn't, because some things that you can explore is there might be some flooded quarry bits and pieces. You know, who knows how deep that goes? What might be under there? You know, but it's a really cool element to the map. Just shows again some history. Maybe this is one of the first spots that they dug down really deep. You know, and they may or may not have learned from their mistakes. But at the same time, you know, it's like it gives some context to some of the water in the map, but maybe not all of the context. You know, because one of those questions with Jade Sea and Echovault, when we first started designing these maps for Guild Wars 2, you know, is what do these maps look like in context of the fallout from the Jade Wind,
Right.
you know, and now that has been kind of not as serious, it's not as impactful.
Settling
yeah.
down.
Why don't, you know,
It's not as recent.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
Guild Wars 1 spoiler, you know, you took out Shiro. That's the spoiler. I mean, you know, we're just going to go with it. Took down Shiro, you know, that's not as much of a thing. So what happened? You know, does the Jade turn back to water? That would be really awkward if you had all these Jade Tech things in Cantha and they just splash, turned into water, you know, especially if you had a Jade Tech bathtub. Because you already have water, and then I don't know.
We're gonna need to make a jade bathtub just for Kirk
And well, we have the oven from Echovault.
for your lunch.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cover all those bases.
Okay,
All
so I
covered.
love this. I love this little grotto that we're going into. This is
It's
one of
so
my favorite
pretty.
places.
It's beautiful in here. Yeah, like, you know, this is an area where when we were talking about it, it's like, what can we do with the concept of the Jade Wind and how it impacted the Jade? You know, what happened to the Jade? Is it melting? Is the Jade Sea melting? Those are questions that you might find answers to, or some information, and through exploring some of the regions of the map, right? I really like this area in particular. You know, this is another Jeff special in the sense that, you know, we're like, we really want to have a lot of boating and fishing support in this map, especially given it's called Jade Sea, which implies water. But we have the flooded quarry area and around where the Nagas are, right? How do we add more? And Jeff's like, I have an idea. I'll get back to you. And in typical Jeff fashion, he checks it in. He's like, all right, what do you think? And we look at it and we're like, oh my gosh.
This is amazing.
Amazing. Yeah, like, you know, this thing is, I'm not going to go in any deeper because it is an awesome thing
Spoilers.
to explore on your own. But, you know, it's beautiful in here. It's really unique because the artwork that's being done here, you know.
It's so pretty. I love all of the light refractions on the or I guess it's the water reflections, like on the jade, and all of like the little like motes kind of floating around, and like the lighting is a lot different than the rest of the Jade Sea, and like in here it's got much more of like a misty, spooky, like teal color going on. It's just like, oh, it's very atmospheric. I love it.
I love it so much. The lighting tricks that Jeff did to, you know, it looks like the sun is literally, refracting through the jade above us. You know, it looks so unique and not really like anything else in the game. And those kinds of environments are discoverable all over, and it's just awesome. I love it so much.
Yeah, I love how there's just like a lot of like on first glance it it seems like, oh, it's just like up here on the surface, but there's a lot of little like hidden off to the side things to discover, and like that sort of little grotto. There's a lot to explore in this map, and I'm really excited for people to see it.
it's a great balance too, because like we were saying, when you're not doing the meta in this map, you want to do more exploring, right? And there's content in this map for you to do that. We wanted to make sure that we're hitting as much as we can in terms of variety, because sometimes people feel more like exploring. They want to go on a fishing trip with their friends, or what have you. And we want to make sure that all of our environments, given how unique all of these biomes are able to support that. Speaking of support, there's some beefy metal legs here.
This is terrifying to me.
Yeah. So, without going into too much spoilers here, the Canthan Empire means business when it comes to mining and quarrying out this jade. It is very essential to their entire, ecosystem, their economy, their technology, and in doing so, they will do what they need to do in order to, to get that jade. And in doing so, they will build these massive, mining operation machines, if you will, crawlers, I think is what we're calling them, to help them do that. This is an awesome set piece for the map. It's super unique. It may or may not have a little bit of a lux and flair to some of the design.
It does.
It does. I think you're probably sensing a pattern here when I'm saying.
I am. Anytime Kirk says something might be the case, it's 100% the case.
100% the case. But yeah, you can climb it and get some to a cool place from it. Again, spoilers, not going to say more. But it's just, I really like, when that first came in, everyone was like, what the heck is that thing? But it just does such a great job, again, of showing the scale of the map and the verticality of the map, and that rock that Chloe was talking about before, there it is again, off in the distance. It really shows how deep they've been digging, because this was all underwater way back when, or under Jade. Underwater than under Jade. But, they've turned this into one big, giant quarry in order to do what they need to do. We're going to continue a little bit further into this quarry, actually. Like we said before, this quarry is the same quarry from Guild Wars 1, that PvE mission. Obviously, there's not Luxons and Kurziks fighting over it at this point. It is very unified in their goal. Even if it does have some interesting folks, we saw the speakers off on one side of the map, and we might run into some other gang members here. Given how important Jade is, everyone wants to be aware of it and, take part in what's going on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're also able to see, some of the jade that they might have fished up. That is like, this shark had a really bad day.
This shark, this was not a good afternoon, and the fish in there too.
Fishies.
Like we're all, oh gosh, this was hard for the shark, but also I guess we kind of saved the fish here.
That's true.
Somehow,
From
because
becoming
the
lunch.
shark was going to eat them.
We violated the Prime Direct. Well,
I'm
Shiro
looking for an
violated the
upside
Prime
here.
Directive. Yeah,
But
when
the
this all turned
creatures in
jade.
there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
These are so cool. I love it. Just really brings a lot of life to the jade when you can see the history there. Like it wasn't like a water sea at one point in time, and having that translucency and the creatures embedded inside, they're just frozen in time, and it's really it's just like such a nice touch there. Those are so cool.
It's also an illustration. It's a good illustration of how suddenly this happened.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah.
So, again, this is very similar to the Guild Wars 1 area. Most of Jade Sea in Guild Wars 2 actually doesn't really take place in an area that was explorable in Guild Wars 1, but it does touch two spots that are playable in Guild Wars 1. The first one being this Jade Quarry. The other one is a harvesty thing that might be a bit south from here,
Would it be some sort of temple, maybe?
Potentially?
Maybe?
It might be.
Hey,
Not
remember? Hey, do you guys remember that thing I said a minute ago about when Kirk says it might be? He just confirmed a thing.
Well,
I know, right?
There's a lot of important elements of the Jade Sea that we wanted to take into account when we were building this area. And again,
That's fair.
I love the open views of this map so much. The work that has been done to make it, work as an open map that looks like it's been quarried. You can get these grand vistas that are just beautiful to just kind of soak in.
Yeah, that's honestly been a problem for me, this whole show, because I'm supposed to be paying attention, and I keep going. I'm just. It's so beautiful.
That's why I like where we have the screen. I can see, it's like, oh yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's difficult for me though. There's a massive screen behind the cameras showing what Kirk is doing, and yeah, I keep getting distracted, just looking. Oh, it's
so
beautiful.
Yeah. One of the cool things about this area is, when it's not unspawned of literally everything and everybody, this is where you'll see a lot of the business go down, of people doing the job to get the thing, the jade that powers everything in Cantha, and that, you'll see it influenced in everything. They have jade tech built into their work here, their quarry here, and they have living quarters that are quite large. They have these amazing waterfalls. Those are in fact windmills, not waterfalls. There is a waterfall in that direction, but behind some stuff. I love the scale of this entire thing.
Yeah.
Those windmills are so cool.
Yeah, that was, I know we already called it out, but just those huge windmills, the height indicating how deep the mining has gone it's just such a good touch, and I love it.
I feel like there's not a lot of places in Guild Wars right now that have like this level of like scale, like up. Like there's things that are like maps that have verticality, but just like the sheer size of a lot of these like map props, like all it's just it's so cool. Like it just has just this sense of grandness about it. That's really cool.
It's great. The work that the art team has done, on this project, and the work that Jeff has done on this map. Every time we log in here, and when we do play tests, like we did a meta play test the other day, it blows us away every time. We come out of it being like, we wish it was February so we could play it with folks.
Yeah.
Right?
But also it's like, it's already November. And,
It is so close. It feels like, I was saying this to you yesterday, it feels like it's 5 minutes away and forever away. Like,
it really does.
We have work to do, but we are eager for February to get here.
It's getting close.
I can't wait. There's
I'm
so many
excited.
Cool things.
There's a lot of stuff that I'm excited for, but I'm in particular excited for like people to experience this meta for the first time.
I know we called it out. Earlier, but I do want to touch on just one more time the little details, like, oh, and now you flew away. The little details, like even the walls, the carvings and the mosaics, and just even like the vines climbing up the side of the walls. Every little detail in this map is so beautiful. It is really pretty.
It really is. Every time. There's always so many new things. Like we load in here and we're like, that's new. That's amazing. There's always even as developers, when we go into these regions, there's things that we'll find and discover, and we're like, okay, I want to put something there.
Yeah, like look at the pattern just on the side of that wall. It's so good.
Everything looks like it's built in. Like it looks like it has some history to it, but also it looks like it. They took that history and expanded on it. Kind of a blend of the old and the new.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, well, thank you both. That was our tour of the Jade Sea today. I hope you all liked everything that you saw. Like we've said, we're so excited for you to get in here in February and just get this look at it for yourself when everything's not hidden. And we're not sitting here going, there sure is a thing here, and it's great, and we can't tell you about it yet.
So many things.
Yeah. So, but we are getting closer and closer. We are in the second half of November. End of Dragons launches in February of 2022. It is coming at us like a freight train, you guys. End of Dragons is available for pre-purchase now. You can go ahead and get in on that, get some goodies for your account that you can use right away, like the sweet raptor skin that Kirk was running around on. Speaking of pre-purchase, we also are working with DX Racer. You can pre-purchase your own End of Dragons DX Racer gaming chair. This thing is amazing. I love the embroidered End of Dragons logo on there. Pre-purchase for this lasts until the end of November, until the end of this month. You can get in on that. The chairs will come to you in early 2022. So again, so close. My gosh. Why is it almost Thanksgiving?
I don't
I don't know
know.
what time is anymore.
Right? So speaking of Thanksgiving, we also have some Black Friday sales coming next week, both out of game and in the gem store. So keep an eye on our channels. We're going to have a sale on Path of Fire and then a handful of other things. So keep an eye out. We will be telling you about those all next week. Also next week is our Siege Turtle live stream. We get to show off the Siege Turtle mount.
Siege Turtle hype.
Yes, I am
wait.
super excited. Really important thing about that, next week is the Thanksgiving holiday here in America. So the studio is closed on Thursday and Friday. The Siege Turtle live stream is same channel, same time of day, but it is Wednesday, not Friday. So don't come Friday. We will
We'll
not
all
be here.
Turkey
We will not-
comas.
We will all be in turkey comas. That's right. Kirk will have had lunch. I'm so excited.
I'm glad that this has become a thing that I don't even need to talk about it anymore.
Right? We'll just do
I
it
don't
for
think
you.
anyone's going to let you down on it.
Yes, join us next Wednesday, this channel, noon Pacific time for the Siege Turtle live stream, and we will see you then. Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.